Well, welcome to our podcast, Climate and Cuisine, where we like to discuss everything that has to do with food, one of our favorite topics, and climate, and how our food choices affect our climate, which I think is a topic that might be really needed to be talked about because I think sometimes we miss that piece. And I have the most amazing guest today, Jane Velez-Mitchell, former headline news CNN anchor and developer and producer of Unchained TV and a New York Times bestselling author and a huge animal advocate. And I'm just so excited to have you here. Thank you for taking some time to be with us today. I want to learn a little bit more about where your advocacy is going and how you got to this place right now, because I don't know that story.
Well, happy to be here. As you can see behind me, that's the Unchained TV streaming network on my Samsung TV. So we are the world's only free nonprofit streaming television network for the plant-based lifestyle, which includes animal rights. And you can get us for free on your phone. Just go to your App Store or Google Play Store and just put in the one word Unchained TV. 2,000 videos show up. And the great thing is you can text these videos to people. So you can watch it on your Samsung TV. Yay, you got it. I love it.
Of
You
course.
can watch it online at watchunchainedtv.com or unchainedtv.com. But we urge people to put it on their TV so they can watch these great documentaries and cooking shows on television. But the
Right.
great thing about the phone app is that you can text videos to people. So if for those who say I could never give up cheese, well, we have an entire category of vegan cheese videos, how to make vegan cheese fondue, all the latest companies, etc. So you can literally hit, here's Tabitha Brown doing a talk show. You could just hit share and you can share that to anybody. That's a really powerful feature because documentaries have been shown to be one of the leading ways that people decide to go vegan. And vegan is really essential for the climate. It's the missing piece of the puzzle. We can see that these COP conferences are going nowhere. And we can see that the crisis is escalating and the governments are spending a lot of money and not getting anywhere because they're leaving out the key piece of the puzzle, animal agriculture's impact on the climate. Now, way back in the early 2000s, the United Nations issued a report called Livestock's Long Shadow. If you Google livestock's long shadow, it will come right up. And it said there right out, this is a very in-depth report, that animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than all transportation combined. I want to say that again. The United Nations itself in the early 2000s said that animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than all transportation combined. What happened after that? Well, the meat industry freaked out and they kept really hammering the United Nations to dial that back. The meat industry, which also works hand in hand with the pharmaceutical industry, because we wouldn't need all these drugs, the cholesterol lowering drugs, the erectile dysfunction drugs that so many men are on, the obesity drugs, if we switch to a healthier plant-based diet. So the pharmaceutical industry has more lobbyists than I believe any other industry on Capitol Hill. So they started pushing back, downplay that narrative, downplay that narrative. And so what's happened is that the climate crisis is getting worse because it's as if we're putting fossil fuels on trial when the real murderer is sitting in the gallery laughing and nobody's prosecuting that suspect. So we're doing ourselves a disservice, and it's time that we woke up. And that's what Unchained TV is all about. I was in the mainstream media, as you mentioned, for more than 30 years. So I've been behind the curtain. While by hook or by crook, I was able to do some reporting on this issue, but it took a lot of hook or by crooks. It's not something that you're going to hear because look at the advertisers. The advertisers are what keep the lights on. So, you know, you're not getting the whole story. You're not even getting half the story. And so that's why we started Unchained TV.
That's amazing. how can we besides your advocacy, like how can we keep getting this message out there? And why is it because the money and they're in deep with these pharmaceutical companies, and the meat industry is very connected, dairy industry is connected to the lobbyists? I mean, how I know there's a shift. I feel there's a shift, but it seems still such a far reach. What can we do ourselves besides being vegan? Like, how do we get this message out there more besides our podcast here, besides what we're doing? Is there any other ways that you think that we can become louder?
Well, I think we're all doing what we can. I used my skills as a TV journalist to start a vegan streaming television network. I call it the CNN Netflix of veganism. You're doing a podcast. I mean, everybody can do something. I have a friend who's a violinist. She plays the violin at fundraisers for this issue. It doesn't matter what your skills are. If you're an accountant, hey, we need some free accounting advice. Our nonprofit pays a lot for accounting, which we would love to get for free. So there's a lot of things that you can do by using your skills to get involved. I would say, first of all, download the app. Okay, because I see how it is. People go, yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. If they don't download it right now while I'm talking to them, because I get a ping when people download, then they get distracted. Oh, yeah, that's great. Oh, I think I have it. No, take the time. It's literally 20 seconds to go to your app store, put in Unchained TV, one word, and download it. Then you can start looking at those videos. You can start texting them out to everybody you know. I text them out to my own relatives. I have some relatives who are vegan. I have others who aren't. You know, I texted an interview we did about the bird flu. We also write news articles. I texted an article that I did about the bird flu. You know, different people are going to be motivated by different things. Look at the rising price of eggs. Well, we're about to start a campaign to inspire everybody to try Just Egg. There is no reason for anybody to be eating the menstrual period of poultry. Okay, none
100%.
at all. It's a cholesterol bomb. It's not this healthy food that the advertisers who are trying to make money tell you it is. And now we have the bird flu crisis. Let's get off it. There's no
Yeah.
need. We make tons of restaurants. We have tons of cooking shows. We just won a taste award for an original show we did called Kale Crew, which profiles Chicago's vegan scene in series the first season of the series. We just won a taste award, best city or regional program, and we also won a Joie de Vivre Taste Award. That's considered like the Oscars of food for another show we did called At Home with the Jenners, which features Brandon and Kaylee Jenner, who are of the famous Jenner Kardashian clan. And they are vegans. They're raising their family vegan. They love animals. They rescue animals. They have rescued chickens. We did a series with them, and it just won a Joie de Vivre Taste Award. So we're winning awards. We're distributing, we're going on FAST channels now, which is free ad-supported television to further distribute our content globally. We're on Gusto TV. Some of our shows go on PBS. So by supporting us, I don't take a salary, okay? I do this as a labor of love because I can't sit around playing tennis, reading novels on the beach while animals are being tortured systemically in industrialized animal agriculture, which is worsening climate change. I do this because we have to do this. We have to
Yep.
do this, or we may not have a livable planet in a very short period of time. You know, there's only 9 boundaries. That's not me saying it. It's Sir David Attenborough. And I'll give a plug to a great Netflix documentary called Breaking Boundaries. And there's only about 9 boundaries. And once you break those boundaries, there's no turning back. So once the ice caps melt, you can't go on Amazon and order new ice caps. We're at a crucial juncture where we're barreling through these boundaries that make our planet livable. Once we crash through them, our planet could become unlivable. Now, I have 2 dogs and a cat who are my companion animals. I do not have any human children, but for those who have human children, do you want to live? Do you want to leave this planet uninhabitable virtually for your children and your grandchildren? I hope not. Well, think about it. People say, well, climate change, there's cold season. It's not global warming. It's more extreme weather. We're seeing it on a daily basis. Incredible cold snaps that then give way to heat waves. I mean, how many floods and fires does it take for people to wake up? Well, people say, well, yeah, it's theoretical, but no, when it burns your house down, it's no longer theoretical. And
Right.
what I like to use is the analogy of termites. We think, well, it's a big world out there. How could we have an impact? How could termites destroy an entire house? Termites are very tiny, but they get in there, they can literally eat through the wood and destroy an entire house. That's the situation that we're in. And the frustrating part is that we're trying to offer the solution. There's a great movie called Don't Look Up, right? With Leonardo
Yeah.
DiCaprio,
Yeah.
where it's a metaphor for climate change. There's an asteroid coming and they're trying to alert everybody, and they're on this morning talk show, and the talk show host is like, you're so strident, this is a morning show, calm down. And they're like, wait a second, no, there's an asteroid that's coming to kill us, we're trying to, no, 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 please calm down. So this is where we're at when we try to wake people up that eating animals is obviously torture for the animals. In industrialized animal agriculture, I can make a case that they are torture from the day they're born to the day they die. And that's billions of animals. 92 billion a year killed. Millions and millions were killed since we started this broadcast. So there's that. And that's my primary motivation, because I have two beautiful dogs and a cat. And if they did to those animals what they're doing to 92 billion animals, um, I would be crushed. And I am crushed because it's not just my animals. See, we have to expand our circle of compassion beyond just our animals. So
Right.
many dog lovers. We just see this right behind us. We just started a whole campaign about vegan dogs. My dogs are vegan. They're incredibly healthy. They're super energetic, as am I, on a vegan diet, 29 years vegan. And if dogs and cats were their own country, United States dogs and cats would be the fifth largest meat eating country in the world. So we're trying to wake people up that their dogs do not need to be carnivores, as all the advertising says. In fact, we have a Netflix to Doom film that Netflix has graciously given us the permission to stream, called Can Dogs Thrive on a Vegan Diet? You can find it right here on Unchained TV. It's a 7-minute film, and it's about a study done at Western University in Pomona that shows that the actual stats of dogs improve on a vegan diet. And it's really interesting. And also, they make the case that American dogs, are suffering from the same problems from a meat laden diet that humans are. Like, there's dog obesity, there's dog heart disease, blah, blah, blah. So there's so many reasons to adopt a plant-based diet, and a lot of people are extremely resistant. We don't want to berate people. We don't want to make people feel bad. We don't want to get people angry, but we do have to disrupt. Okay. I'm 29 years sober. Knock on wood. In a couple of months, I will be 30 years sober. When I was drinking and in my disease, I thought that alcohol was my solution. Actually, it was my problem. Bad day at work, have a drink. It only makes it worse. Okay. Good day
Right.
at work, celebrate. Well, then the next day's not so good. It's the same thing with meat and dairy. We think it's our solution when it's actually our problem. You know how everybody's talking about the 80-20 rule?
Yes.
80% of the outcomes are created by 20% of the inputs. That is animal agriculture to a T. It is the 20% that is creating the 80% of our problems. If you think about it, heart disease is the leading killer, pandemics aside for a second. Heart disease is caused generally by arteries to the heart getting clogged with plaque, which comes from cholesterol that only exists in animal products. You can go up and down the supermarket aisles and look at every vegan product. It always says zero cholesterol, because plants do not produce cholesterol. So there's heart disease, cancer. One of the things they never talk about in the mainstream media is that processed meat has officially been declared a carcinogen by the World Health Organization. Now, why aren't there warning labels on that? And you'll see article after article about ultra processed food talking about the syrups, the bread, the
Right.
chips, the oil, never mentioning the fact that the processed meat in that fast food is cancer causing. Okay,
Right.
we have
Because the government doesn't have to put a label on it. Why is that?
no, No, because the government has been co-opted by the meat and dairy industrial complex. Sorry, but look, we're in a turbulent time now. A lot of programs are getting cut, and I'm not saying all of them need to be cut. Far from it. But we do need to cut the subsidies to industrialize animal agriculture. The US government itself is fueling the obesity crisis with its massive subsidies to commodity crops like soy, beans. People don't know that the overwhelming majority of soy is fed to farmed animals, not to people.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And they're so
So,
afraid of soy, but they're eating
yeah,
it anyway.
and corn and all these commodity crops. So then there's subsidies to the cattlemen themselves. Then there's the subsidies when all these animals get sick because of a bird flu. And then the government reimburses them for doing mass killings where these animals are baked to death in a process called ventilation shutdown plus. They turn
So
off
awful.
all the vents. They put in hot air. They close the windows and they let these animals bake to death over several hours, baked alive. That's what your tax dollars are paying for, and it shouldn't be allowed. So certain things do need to be cut. I'd say cut the National Institutes of Health, which supposedly they're doing because they are the biggest animal experimenters on the planet. 95% of drugs that pass in animal trials, fail in human trials. It's medieval. There's no need to be torturing animals for drugs. We can do organs on a chip. We're sending, spaceships to Mars. We do not need to be breaking dogs and monkeys and rabbits' spinal cords and brains and drilling into their brains. It's medieval. So the government is funding all of this. So I say cut, 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 because it is really bizarre to me that the government is funding the very problems that they purport to want to solve. The government
Right.
purports to want to solve the climate crisis. It's fueling the crisis by subsidizing animal agriculture. The government purports to want to solve the health crisis with 43% of Americans obese. It is subsidizing the obesity crisis by making fast food and junk food artificially cheap. The average hamburger wouldn't cost a couple of bucks. It would cost maybe 10, 20, 30 bucks if it wasn't subsidized by the US government. So, what kind of a crazy upside down world are we living in? And this is a bipartisan issue. I am not weighing in on political parties. It is bipartisan, it's a
Right.
problem, and we need to fix it. And that's going to
Yeah.
be the solution. We've got to tell our representatives, get rid of the farm bill subsidies to animal agriculture.
Right. And some of these farmers, I mean, I feel sorry for them because they're in such a horrible position, right? They're sort of stuck, right? Like that's how they make their living. Why can't we give them more subsidies to switch their farm from animal agriculture to a plant-centric farming system where they are getting rewarded for making those changes? I think that's more of what we need, right? That makes sense.
Yeah. If we stop subsidizing fast food and junk food by subsidizing animal agriculture and the commodity crops that go into animal agriculture, then that bad food would become it. We would restore the law of supply and demand, and it would become what it should be, expensive. And then fruits and vegetables wouldn't be so cheap. Wouldn't be so expensive. They'd
It's
become
so expensive.
cheaper. So, yeah, I mean, I think, everything from starvation in the global starvation. There are children and other humans starving right now as we speak when we are feeding a huge percentage, some could argue even most of the food we produce, to factory farmed animals, which is the most inefficient food source. So people sometimes say to me, well, I care about people. And I said, well, do you care about the people who are starving? Because we're hoarding all of the food and putting it into an inefficient food source called animals. If it takes 8 to
Right.
25 pounds of grain to produce 1 pound of beef, what if we took that 8 to 25 pounds of grain and fed it directly to people? We could end world hunger. We could live in a world of natural abundance where everybody has enough food. We could make food a basic human right, the way air is. We would have
Right.
plenty of food for everybody, and then we could rewild a lot of the landmass that has been destroyed to either grow crops to feed to animals or to create cattle grazing land. We're destroying the Amazon primarily for that. And then, since trees absorb carbon, we could begin to immediately lower the Earth's temperature back to pre-industrial times a couple of hundred years ago. That's the solution. Nobody wants to hear it. And it's both sides of the aisle. People
Right.
are dumb and blind to this issue for a couple of reasons. One, they eat animals and they want to keep eating them. So, you have environmentalists who I was told at an environmental conference several years ago, you be quiet. When I just said, and animal agriculture, because they were talking about fossil fuels. Okay.
And they hushed you?
They told me to shut up. And then subsequently, they tried to have me thrown out of an event. They really didn't want to hear from me. Things have changed a little bit, but not enough. So we have to open the environmentalist mind. I will give you an example of positive change. Los Angeles Climate Week, the first ever, made plant-based the default. It didn't require, because there was like 150 events, but the opening ceremonies were plant-based. The closing ceremonies, they work closely with Plant-Based Treaty, which I work with, which is basically a very interesting organization that is based on the Fossil Fuel Treaty that urges municipalities and other governments and institutions like universities and businesses to adopt a plant-based food system. In other words, to be plant forward. It doesn't mean everybody has to be vegan overnight, but it's, let's say, for city events, plant-based is the default. And West Hollywood just adopted it. But West Hollywood is always on the forefront of everything. So there are some environmental organizations and environmental movements like LA Climate Week that are slowly and gradually realizing that plant-based is the answer to, it's the most powerful thing that any individual can do. 3 times a day, you can choose to reduce your carbon footprint. The New York Times recently published a study, you can Google it, that was it was conducted at Oxford University. And the headline was, Save the Planet, Put Down That Hamburger. An analysis of many, many people showed that heavy meat eaters, which is most Americans, can reduce their greenhouse gas emissions footprint by, are you sitting down, people? 75% by switching to a plant-based diet. I'll say it again. Heavy meat eaters, which is most Americans, heavy meat eaters can reduce their greenhouse gas emissions footprint by 75% by switching to a plant-based diet. So what we try to do at Unchained TV is show how fun it is. When I got sober 29 years ago, hopefully 30 years, I thought, I'll never go to a party again. I'll never karaoke again. I'll never dance again. I'll never make a fool of myself again. Well, I do it all the time. And I have more fun. And I remember what I did.
You remember the next day.
Right. It's the same thing with going vegan. It's not a sacrifice. I mean, we have so much fun. It's very social. There's so many vegan meetups. There's so many lonely people out there. Go vegan and you're going to be at meetup. I can't even keep track of it. It's like, no, I can't go. I just went to one yesterday. It's very social group because vegans like to be around other vegans. But I mean, let me tell you, we have so many incredible, I'll just show you this one here. Look at this incredible chocolate cake that, if you see this.
Oh, I know her. I can't hear her. Can you make it
Yeah.
louder?
Okay. Well, it's hard for you to hear it, but the bottom line is she makes a cake. She makes this chocolate strawberry cake. We did it on a cooking show, and afterwards, literally the video crew, who was not necessarily vegan, they charged. And I was like, no, I want a piece. We were all fighting for this cake. It was so good. She uses no processed sugar. She uses dates. So you get a lot of tips that are super fun. It's more fun. I always say there's no mistakes in a vegan kitchen. Nobody died. Okay, so you mess it up, it's okay. So there's a lot of commonality. Sure, there are like plenty of vegan recipes that use, processed sugar. You can get an eclair, blah, blah, blah. But there's also a tendency to use organic, processed sugar free. So, you can really look, people say, well, you could be unhealthy on a vegan diet. Sure, you could eat chocolate cookies that are vegan all day long and say you're
Or
vegan and you're
potato chips.
right, exactly. But that doesn't mean that a vegan diet is not healthier. If you eat a vegan diet as it's meant to be eaten, which is fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, and legumes, you are going to be healthier. You are going to have
Yes.
more energy. I mean, the biggest complaint people have against me is, can you please just take it down a notch? A little, even my neighbor said that the other day about me and my dogs walking. They're like, well, you've all calmed down. And I was thinking, I don't think I'm that over the top, but what are they talking about? It's that we have natural energy from all of these incredible nutrients that we're eating.
Yes, I agree. And like, look at how vibrant your skin is and how much energy you have. I mean, I've been vegan for 25 years and I get that question all the time. What are you doing to your skin? I'm like, nothing. I am eating a vegan diet that is primarily whole food plant-based. And think about your skin. It's the biggest organ. What are you feeding it every day? Are you feeding it dead animals and processed seed oils and all the things that are unhealthy, French fries or whatever? No, if you're feeding it with this vibrant whole food plant-based diet, which has a ton of protein. Hey, everybody who thinks a vegan diet, where you get your protein from, gone are those days. I eat most of even my salads are over 30 grams of protein. And my skin
And
shows it, my energy, right?
that's another scam, the protein
Yes.
scam. Have you ever gone to the doctor and they say, you know what? We did some tests. You're suffering from a protein deficiency. Most
Nobody.
Americans eat more protein than they can process. Okay.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. But you're right. Kale has more protein calorie per calorie than steak. No, I mean it's a no-brainer. And you know what? Veggie burgers are not unhealthy for you. In fact, the Beyond Meat burger is endorsed by the American Heart Association. And one of the things that we have to be aware of is that the meat industry has a war room where they basically send out negative um, PR about veggie burgers, because when Beyond Meat went public in 2019, I believe, it was incredibly successful and it freaked the meat industry out. And they started a propaganda war, which is continuing to this day. So you'll see all of these articles about ultra processed, and then they use vegan burgers as an example. Don't buy it. Okay. They're not cancer causing the way hot dogs, meat hot dogs are officially cancer causing. Meat deli slices are officially cancer causing. So you see kids eating, their parents are feeding them hot dogs. Would you give them a cigarette? No, but
Right.
this is what we have to break through and wake people up. And, I see us as kind of like back in some repressive regime in the 19th century where people are just handing out leaflets in the dark alley. That's what we're doing. We're trying to get to people, but using high-tech methods. So we have a streaming network, and we also are on all social media. And we also just launched a fast channel, which is free ad-supported television, which is going to be going on various platforms. Just had a meeting about it this morning. That's a brand new project of ours to try to get to people, to give them the other side of the story. I'll give you an example. I was at the Vegan Women's Summit in Brooklyn, and there was, I'll leave her name out, a very high profile reporter from a very big network there. And I was like, hi, hi. She kind of tried to ignore me. And I said, hey, great way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And she was like, yeah. So she had two crews there. They were shooting, 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 shooting. We were talking all about, alternative leathers, about, there was a table about cell-based meat. There was a table about, there were dozens, hundreds of people there. There was like 1,000 people there. So I kept waiting for the story to come out. Never came out. They never published it. And then a few weeks later, I'm watching her on TV and she's talking to some environmentalists and she's like, but what can we do? What can we do? She got the answer at that conference, but she wasn't going to say it. There was another reporter there from another big platform that was called to account for publishing one of these hit pieces on veggie burgers. She just came out with another article recently where she talked all about ultra processed, never mentioning meat at all, talking about the French fries, talking about, everything but the main event. So I hate to sound conspiratorial, but you're not getting the true story. And that's
Right.
why we started our streaming network. And if you want to help out, you can also become a monthly donor. We have, quite a few people, $5 a month, $10 a month, and you're part of the Unchained TV team. You get a yearly report on all our analytics and what we've been doing. And it's fun because you're part of the team. Uh, I don't take a salary. I work like literally 12 hours a day. Um, we're connected to a post office box. People think that's our building because it shows up online as a building. You know, fake it till you make it, but we're growing and we need support. We need people to sign up. $5 a month, $10 a month. It's also a morale boost. When I see all those coming in, I go, yeah, come on, we have a team because you can't do it alone.
No, you're right. What made you first what made you first go vegan?
Well, I grew up in a mostly pescatarian household. My mom was Puerto Rican, my dad was Irish, and my mom was very avant-garde. She was doing yoga, in the 40s, and she was one of the early hyphenates. Like she kept her name when she married my father, Pierce Mitchell, and she was Anita Velez, so she became Anita Velez-Mitchell. And I copied her and I became Jane Velez-Mitchell. Even though my birth name is Jane Mitchell, I became Jane Velez-Mitchell because I liked the idea of having both sides of my background included in my name. And so she was basically a pescatarian. So my dad um, adopted that too. We kind of thought we were vegetarians, but we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We still had eggs. We didn't really drink that much milk, but when I was a kid, we'd open the refrigerator. There were so many kooky things in there, like bee pollen, butter, whatever the heck. They were quirky, and they had a lot of funny things. At one point, they were macrobiotic for a while. But the point was that we didn't have like meat in the house, and so I didn't grow up thinking that was normal. And not to say I never tried it. I remember once a doctor told me I had to go and eat something. And I ate like half a liverwurst sandwich when I was like 13 and I was like, ugh. But I still was eating fish, I was eating eggs. So as I went to college, graduated from NYU, worked in Fort Myers, Florida, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, New York, back at WCBS TV. And then I got a job as a main weekday anchor in LA. And I was out here. And at that point, I had become a vegetarian gradually. But I look back on the days when I would eat like crabs and smash them and think, who was that person? Like, how disgusting. How could I have done that? Right? When you wake up, you look back at your
Yeah.
previous behavior and you're shocked. So in walks Howard Lyman. Now he is a fourth generation cattle rancher who got very ill and he made a pact with God and he said, God, if you get me out of this alive, this surgery, I'm going to reveal the horrors of our industry. He did. He wrote a book called Mad Cowboy. He went on Oprah and he started telling all the horrible secrets of how they treat these animals. And she said famously, that just stopped me cold from eating another burger. Well, this was, God, about 29 years ago, something like that. Well, the cattlemen sued her. She had to move her show to Texas for a while. That's when Dr. Phil entered the picture. I think he was a trial consultant or something like that. Anyway, this guy, Howard Lyman, was famous at that moment in time. And he walked into my studio where I was working at KCAL TV on the Paramount lot. And I interviewed him and I talked to him he was telling me all about what he told her, the horrible things. So afterwards, he and his publicist come up to my cubicle and they say, we hear you're a vegetarian. And I said, yes. And they said, do you eat dairy? And he had just told me about, they kill the boy calves a lot of the times, put them in veal crates, they separate the babies from the mothers. And I was like, uh, yeah. And then he went like this, liquid meat, right at my nose. Liquid meat. liquid meat right in my nose. And that's the moment I went vegan. Now, if he had just said, well, we think you should consider maybe giving up, no, I probably wouldn't have heard it. But when he stuck that finger right in my nose, him or his publicist, they were both there together. I had a wake up moment. He was confronting me in a non-violent way and pointing out my hypocrisy. Okay. Because I
Right.
thought I was a big animal lover and blah, blah, blah. But I was meat, liquid meat. Dairy is meat. Those
Yep.
dairy calves, they become the hamburgers when they're spent after 2 years, even though a cow can normally live for 25 years. They're spent after 2 years because they're abused so much. And feminists, take note, when you say rape is rape, none of these animals are making love on these factory farms. They are all forcibly inseminated, which is a sexual violation. And then their babies are taken from them. And then they're all killed. So I call it a rape, abduction, and murder operation. Sorry to be so callous about it, but that's exactly what it is. I was a crime reporter for many years. It's a rape, abduction, and murder operation. If you find that offensive, then don't take part. Try soy milk. Soy milk is the most successful, plant-based milks, it's the most successful sector of the vegan landscape. People are switching. Starbucks just dropped its surcharge. Dunkin' Donuts, I hear, is dropping its surcharge for
Yep.
plant-based milk.
They did.
So,
They did.
yeah. So, you go in there and I see people, they're at the dairy counter and they're looking around and I very dramatically take my soy milk and kind of hovered around them. Uh, and it's better for you. It's zero cholesterol. It's less fat. It lasts longer. If you can
Yep.
leave it in the car, you can go the next day and drink it. It's not going to go bad. There's a million reasons why it's better for you, better for the planet, better for the animals. Why are you still drinking the breast milk of a cow when 67% of people are experience lactose malabsorption? According to the National Institutes of Health, it's right on their website. So why is the US government providing most of the revenue for the dairy industry when its own government says 67% of the people are lactose, basically allergic to dairy?
Right.
And it's making people sick and they get pimples and they get rashes and they get all sorts of things and mucus and colds and bleh. Okay. Because we're not cows. We shouldn't be drinking the breast milk of another species. And
Right.
yeah, it's irrational.
It makes zero sense. Zero sense why we would go to another animal to get milk when we can have our own. It just logic. Like, you don't even have to
I'm
be
going to
a
have some
smart.
coffee with soy milk right now.
Yes, I just had two oat milk lattes. It's so great to have you on. I'm so appreciative of your time. And so, if people want to get a hold of you, besides Unchained TV, what else can you just give us a quick snapshot of where they can find you?
Well, we're Unchained_TV on Instagram, but if you just put it on Unchained TV, it comes up. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me on Facebook. Um, you know, I'd say if you have something exciting like a vegan documentary, or if you want to do a show, look, we're open to people doing shows. I met this guy, Nemanja Golubovic, at a party at PETA, and he's extremely charismatic and very valuable personality. And I said, you should have your own show. He's the owner of Kale My Name restaurant in Chicago. It's like the top one of the top vegan restaurants in Chicago. 2 weeks later, he sent me the first episode called Kale Crew. So it just won a best city or regional program at the Taste Awards. If people have a show, look, not everybody's designed to be on camera or have a show. He is, but we're willing to consider it. We've given micro grants to, let's say, a chicken sanctuary that she put together a beautiful little documentary about chickens called Meet the Chickens that's on streaming on Unchained TV. And I literally sent her maybe $600 worth of equipment, microphone, and a stabilizer for her camera. So there's a lot of ways you can participate. Not everybody is designed to have a show, but there's other ways. You can write articles for us if you're journalistically inclined. You can go live on TikTok. We have a whole team that goes live on TikTok. Mike Tyson was just at Mr. Charlie's, which is a vegan like McDonald's alternative, and it got 30,000 views. Just
Wow.
a TikTok view. So there's a lot of ways you can be a part of Unchained TV and be a team member. Donate. Just become a
Yes.
monthly donor. But the
Donate.
main thing is download it. It takes just a couple of seconds. Unchained TV, one word in your app store.
Yes. And I love that. I love that there's such a library of so many things. I've done a couple cooking shows and I'd like to do some more. It's so fun. It's so great to just be a
Well,
part of
do
something
it.
that's bigger
Do
than
it.
myself.
You would be
Yeah,
great. You would have a great cooking show. And, we could talk about it. We could, because there's certain little technical things that have to happen. But yeah, you would have a great cooking. I think you should have a cooking show on Unchained TV. There
I'm
you
doing it.
go.
I'm doing it because people are asking what I'm eating all day long, and I've trained some plant-based chefs here in Tampa on how to make restaurants here in Tampa have at least one plant-based option. It's not hard. People think it's like you have to go to all these different stores. No, any grocery store these days has those ingredients. It's not hard. Just think outside the box. But
Oh my
I
God. I
digress.
don't have time. I don't have time. Well, have you ever picked up an apple and taken a bite of it? You've eaten a vegan meal.
Oh my gosh. I know people are like, what do you eat? I'm like, the same food you eat. It's just I
See,
don't eat the meat part of it.
the
Anyway,
key, the key is the first step to breaking free of brainwashing is thinking, maybe I'm being brainwashed.
right, right.
Somebody's
Yes,
getting very rich off of our bad choices. As one of my heroes, Dr. Silas Rao, an environmentalist, vegan advocate, said, we're all being
love him.
factory. We're all
Yep,
being factory farmed. They are factory farming humans into obesity. Then they sell us obesity drugs.
yep,
See, they make money both ways.
yeah. They are smart. We got to just break that pattern and get the truth out there.
They're trying to make disease a natural pattern with their commercials. You ever seen these commercials? I've got this and I've got that, and I'm gonna take this pill again. And then side effects include suicidal ideation. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, you look at this and you go, this is madness. How did we get here where this is normalized?
Right. Exactly. What drug do I have to go on to fix all the stuff I've done to myself when you don't even have to do any of that? Just change your diet. It's simple. It's simple. Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to doing maybe a cooking show soon with you. And I definitely will be spreading Unchained TV. Easy to download that app because I think it's really important. And I think because you have such a great library, so many good articles and videos and things that people are interested because we're all interested in food. I think it would be a really good way for people to just take a peek into like, hey, I don't have to eat meat at every meal.
You don't have to eat meat at all.
Yes,
Kick
100%.
it. Like with alcohol, getting back to the alcohol analogy, well, we always try to negotiate. Okay. Now, when you can never successfully negotiate with something, there's only one power you have, and that's the power to walk away.
Yep,
So, you know, of course, alcoholics always try to, I'll only drink on weekends. I'll only drink wine. I'll only drink spritzers. If you can never win, the only thing you can do is walk away. So, yes, everybody says reduce. There's a whole reducitarian movement, and I'm not against that. But sometimes you can just say, hasta la vista, baby.
right. Make the change, make the switch. And don't be so selfish. We're not taking your don't look at it like I'm taking your meat away. Look at what we're doing for the next generation, our planet, where we all collectively share this planet. It's not like it's
I
your
say,
planet.
I say be selfish. It's the most selfish thing you can do to go vegan. I mean, it's good for you.
Selfless.
It happens to also be good for the planet and good for the animals, but it's good for you. It's the most selfish thing you can do.
Right, because self-care is not selfish in its entity, right? Like you are taking care of your own health instead of relying on the government and medication. How about freeing yourself of all of that and the doctor's appointments? Like there's so much to it. Anyway, I am so thankful that you were here today, and we might have to schedule another one because I feel like we could talk for a long time. And Thank you again. And anybody out there watching, all of our viewers, download that Unchained TV app and get involved. Make some changes. Do something good for yourself today. You'll feel better, you'll have more energy, your skin will be glowing, and you're saving animals. Like what? It's an easy thing to do. Thank
You
you.
said it. Thank you so
Yep.
much. Great to be here.
All right.